Hi, Pat. I'm making a pastry that I've never made before. It's called the vanilla slice. Really thick custard. Okay, come on guys. Pets are fighting. So a vanilla slice is basically a really thick custard sandwiched in between two really flaky pieces of puff pastry. And it looks pretty challenging because it's a lot of textures, a lot of structural integrity, and I also want to get a little creative with it and not just do a traditional vanilla slice, which is usually cut into a square or a rectangle. I actually want to play around with some shapes and make a circular one, something that looks more like a cake, and I wanted to do this cute little polka dot design. Refining my croissant skills because I haven't been making croissants for that long. I started literally last June. It's been 8 months since I started taking croissants very seriously, so I'm looking to improve my recipe. I am testing a lower hydration dough today. And I'm also adding some bread flour into my dough to increase the amount of gluten in the dough, because I found that I didn't have as much structure in my previous croissants. So I'm really curious what this is gonna do to this batch today. Laminating is so much fun, so it's always, I find any opportunity to do some lamination and to bake croissants. All right, because we are shaping croissants. Did not feel right. I've been trying to turn my rough puff pastry recipe into a real puff pastry recipe, and I think I finally cracked it. Look how flaky that is. There's so many layers in here. And to give you a comparison, this is what, well, I guess this isn't a very good example, but this is the rise that I get from my rough puff pastry. I mean, I did squish this down to make the vanilla slice, but it really didn't puff up that much. And this one puffed up so much that it toppled over. And listen to this. It's so like airy and light. And there's rye flour in here, so there's like depth of flavor. That's really good. I can't stop eating this. But just to give you a comparison, this is the rough puff pastry, and it's also flaky, but it's just a little more dense. But this one is just like biting into crispy air. Wow. Flake in my throat. Super happy with that. Another win today, the puff pastry that I cut out for the vanilla slice, look, fits perfectly in the pans that I wanted. I used these to trace out the pie dough when it was frozen, and I knew it was gonna shrink, but I thought that I would have to cut them after they bake, but they fit perfectly. I mean, they're a little small, but I wanted them to fit in here because this is where I'm gonna mold the pastry together. All right, time to clean up my workstation. Definitely not my favorite part of the process, but it's gotta be done. Time to proof croissants. Proofing box is set up. I'm attempting to make pretzel croissants. Of these scrap doughs that I kind of shaped into croissants, but they also kind of look like bow ties, which are really cute. So I'm gonna turn those into pretzel croissants and maybe one of these normal shaped ones into a pretzel croissant. And I think they're gonna be really delicious if it works. I devised a plan. I'm gonna use these little bits of parchment paper and they're gonna proof on here like this. And then I'm gonna use it as a sling to transfer them from the tray into the bath of baking soda and then back onto the tray. So I hope that works. I've never done this before. I think it'll work. It should work. This one wasn't quite long enough to really look like anything, so it just looks like a little cool twisted pattern, I guess. Spread these out so they have room to grow. Last time I made these, I put way too many croissants onto one tray, so they kind of just baked into each other. Which was not a problem, they were still delicious, but I didn't really like that the sides didn't brown. So we're gonna give these as much room as we can. I'm not gonna use a second tray. Maybe I'll have to. We'll see. Croissants are currently proofing at 84 degrees. It looks nice and steamy in there. I've had to adjust it a couple times. I put in a boiling pot of water for about 5 minutes, and I did that 3 times in order to get the temperature to 84 degrees. It was actually at 87 degrees Fahrenheit about 2 minutes ago, and then I just opened up the oven door to let some of the steam out, and now it's at 84. I pulled the croissants out at 5:30 a.m. this morning, and I put them into my oven to proof around 6 a.m. So they've been in there for about 2.5 hours, and they're not close to being ready to bake yet. So I'm gonna give it at least another hour and a half, and then we'll check up on it again. But I really do not want to rush this step. This is critical that we are patient. I like to egg wash my croissants twice. So usually I do it once while my oven is preheating, and then once the oven is nice and hot, then I'll egg wash them again and then put them immediately into the oven. Color, if I double egg wash it, it becomes more of a dark brown, more of a croissant that you would find at a bakery. I'm waiting for my baking soda solution to cool down to about 85 degrees because I need to dip my croissants in this water bath, and I really don't want the butter to melt. So I'm being very patient, and I'm just gonna keep stirring this baking soda solution until it gets down to 85 degrees. It's currently at 100 degrees. So the dipping went okay. I think I managed to dip all of the croissants in there without any butter melting and without smushing the layers too much. I'm gonna try to double dip them because I don't think I let them soak in there for long enough. I did probably like 10 to 15 seconds for each of them. And since I have some time, I'm just gonna try to double dip them to really get as much of the baking soda solution on there as possible. I'm also doing a tester where I'm not dipping the croissant. I'm actually just gonna brush it on top and see how effective that is. Kind of nervous and kind of excited about how these are gonna turn out, but I think they look so good even with just the salt on there. I mean, that looks like a pretzel to me already. If I did it right, it's gonna be so flaky with that nice pretzel-y flavor. Okay, I'm gonna put them in the oven. The croissants are done. I think they look so good. I'm not sure what the inside is gonna look like, but I'm really happy with the color and There's no butter leakage, so I think the proof was pretty good. But yeah, they smell so good. I am very happy with that crumb. It's a very tight crumb, which I've never really achieved before, so I think this looks very nice and I'm very happy with how this turned out. I think the bread flour had a lot to do with how that crumb looks, and they are properly proofed. I feel like I don't see any wet spots in there, so I'm really happy with that. Usually getting the proofing timing right is the hardest part. It's so good. This also has a lot more structure than the other croissants I've made before. And I think that's due to the bread flour. That was something that I wanted to improve using the bread flour. Yeah, it just looks like a very solid croissant. Awesome. Well, these look pretty good to me. Look at that one. This looks like a soft pretzel, but all of those flaky layers are showing. And this one too. This one looked like a bow tie before I baked it, but now it looks more like a pretzel. Dipped one and I brushed one, and they look very similar. I actually think the brushed one has more color. So maybe that's the way to go. That's a lot simpler. They're very similar. The color difference could have been where they were sitting in the oven, but I want to cut them open. The crumb for this one isn't as perfect as the regular croissants that I made. Some gaping holes in there, maybe due to shaping or some proofing. I think these were proofing at the bottom of the oven, which is a little cooler than the top of the oven. So these also didn't look as poofy before I put them into the oven, but I feel like that's not bad. But let's taste them. I'm getting some of the pretzel taste in there. It's not super strong of a pretzel taste, and it's probably because I'm using a baking soda solution instead of a lye solution. So it's very faintly pretzel-y. And the pretzel salt on there is really nice. Still delicious. Oh, wow, they look actually more pretzel-y on camera than they do in person. But I think that's a really nice color. A dark golden brown. I didn't egg wash them at all, so that's all the baking soda solution. I'm not sure if I would try to make these again without a actual lye solution, and I don't really want to mess with lye solution at home. But I think I have the process correct in dipping it and waiting for the solution to come to the right temperature. So I'm happy with that. I just don't think I can get them any more pretzel-y without using stronger chemicals, and I don't really want to mess with that. So that was a fun experiment.